And we're just really, really grateful. I'm just so grateful that Ingrid and I talked about this about 3 months ago, and we finally made a time. It sort of went around and around in circles for a little while, just with different things happening. But what I wanted to do today before we started, I've asked Tom if he would we want to bring up some pictures of Ingrid Centre in Motwoyoni, just so we can get a feel of where she is in the world and what it looks like for her every day. Of course, it's very different to here in Uganda. So, Tom, if you're able to do that, that would be amazing. We just have a little bit of a look around. Am I saying Motwoyoni right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's Swahili. Swahili and it means river in the heart.
Uh-huh.
Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can see, or I can see it. Looks great. I like the birds. Very impressive.
Yeah.
So Ingrid, you came to this centre. Have you established it from pretty much from the beginning, or how did you find it when you came there?
Yeah, I bought the land when there was nothing.
Wow.
Like it was bush in '93. And then very quickly I realized the beauty of it. And I was just kind of thinking that I just knew I didn't have it from myself alone, but I had no idea why I had bought it, except, that it is really for me to enjoy, until I met Father. And that's when I realized I've got this land to kind of build a center for people to get to know Father.
Right. Yeah.
So at the time when I bought the land, I was working with street children. I set up an organization for street children and community work. And once and those years were very traumatic years for me. And I kind of was so good at eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that my heart died.
Oh, okay.
Until I met Father and life came back. And that's when I realized, why I had that land.
Right.
And so we started building a center where people could come and meet with Father.
So you're originally from the Netherlands, though. So how did you find yourself in Africa in the beginning? Is that a long story?
Yeah, I actually, when I was 19, I went on a holiday to family who were missionaries in Colombia, and I spent there 6 weeks. And when I came back, I knew I wanted to go somewhere. I wanted to just help to make the world better. And I was actually going to Papua New Guinea with Wycliffe.
Okay.
And so I quit my job, and then I got a phone call from them saying that they wanted somebody who had English as a mother tongue. And that's when I didn't know where to go. Wow. Because I quit my job and my house. And then a colleague of my father was going to Uganda, and he said, why don't you talk to her? And so I talked to her, and that's how I ended up in Uganda. Okay. That was 81.
Wow. In 1981. So when did you come to Motwoyoni? How long have you been there?
We started building Motwoyoni in 2004. Right. And our first programs were in 2005. Right. When the painters were still walking around us, because I was still quite driven. Yeah.
Wow. So, and then I know that it means rivers in the heart. And I know you wrote a book called Rivers in the Heart. Is that about your journey
That's about the journey. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the centre, Tom's showing us some pictures now just of the places where people stay when they come. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I feel like it's okay. So Trevor is online, which is great, Trevor. So please,
definitely.
And you love it, I know. It just looks amazing. So tell us, what sort of things do you run there? Like, so what do you offer people?
Of course, we do A schools here, and together with Trevor and Mark, we do B schools.
Right.
Then we do kind of healing of the heart programs based on restoring the foundation material, but we kind of mix a lot of father heart in there.
Right.
And at the moment we are really, oh, there's Trevor. At the moment we are doing a lot with youth. You know, we are restricted now, but the schools are closed. So the pictures that you're seeing here is our youth center, our low budget center, where we do a bit of things with young people.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and so they would come in, what, for a week? People come to the schools for about a week?
Our youth weeks, we started with 4 weeks, but that's when we realized that, you know, the youth here does have no inner structure at all. It's all based on fear. And so for 2 weeks in the school, they would ask us where the stick was, or what would happen when we do something wrong, or when we are disobedient. Oh, wow. And so after 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of the school, we became policemen. Oh, because there was just there was freedom, but there was no sense of what freedom meant.
Ah.
And so then we started doing the schools for 3 weeks. And now we're back to 2 weeks.
Okay.
With an opportunity for youth to come back if they want to go deeper.
Right. Okay.
And then we kind of have a natural selection of people who are really coming because they want to go deeper with Father, or people who just want to have a good time together and have fun, which is not bad, but that's not the aim of our school.
So do you find there are mainly Ugandans coming to your schools?
Yeah, for the youths, it's all Ugandan youth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember back when we were talking about doing this session, and it was right at the beginning of COVID, and I think we were talking about the amount of deaths that you'd had in Uganda, and I was so surprised because there weren't that many. I think at that stage it was only about 32. And then you gave me this amazing statistic of the age range in Uganda. And I was quite surprised.
Yeah, 75% of the population in Uganda is under 25. So it's a very young population. I think we are the second youngest country in the world.
Wow. And is there a reason for that, or is it just the way the dynamic?
I'm not really sure, but of course it was a country that was really taken very badly by AIDS. So it wiped kind of a whole generation out 10 years ago.
Right.
So we have a history of civil war, of course, here. And the number of children the women are producing 7.2. So it's kind of a very high fertility rate. Yeah.
I mean, it is when you first said that 75% of the population are under 25, I'm like, what does that look like? That is really quite incredible, because obviously that's amazing in so many ways, because what you're doing, you have an opportunity to influence obviously a younger generation, which is fantastic. I mean, for many of us, we're, you know, working with people who are middle-aged or a little bit younger, but your whole focus must be pretty much in that younger generation. Yeah. So that must make, I mean, Father must really have something special in that for you.
I asked him once we did a youth school, and I asked him, I said, why are we doing these schools? And he said to me, I am building a new Uganda, a Uganda rooted in love, a new generation that is rooted in love. And at the end of the school, there was a testimony time, and one of the guys stood up and said, during this school, Father told me that I'm part of a new generation of Ugandans that are going to build a country rooted in love. And it was exactly the same words that Father had been speaking to me.
Wow.
And so, you know, another statistic that's so shocking is that the country is 85% Christian. But a few years back, we were the second most corrupt nation in the world.
Yeah.
And so you can see that the Christianity that is a Christianity that has, it's religion.
Yeah, it's been corroded.
And you know, I'm beginning to see that people have suffered so much in this country that their hearts are closed down. And so they know the truth with their head, but it hasn't got the power to set the hearts free.
Mm.
And so it becomes a very religious system with a lot of rules and regulations, but there's no life in it.
Yeah, yeah. So I can see why people, when they come to the schools, must be so attracted to that sense of knowing they're loved and that purity that comes, the truth of the gospel as it's presented through the schools, as many of us on the line have obviously done schools and know what that's like. So it must really, it must be a huge impact on them when they come.
Yeah, I think, you know, hearts are just opened up and life flows in. And I mean, I did a week last month with 14 guys from 18 to 25 right from the street.
Wow.
I mean, they were just in an organization for a month or two. And the way they responded to love was just so beautiful to see. I mean, they had never had any kind of positive influence in their lives. And here they were, and you know, the moment they were in that safe place, their hearts opened, and there was just a waterfall of love that came in. And I just got an email with the testimonies from the guys. And I'm just beginning to see the whole world needs to be loved.
No, that's truth in that.
It's just, I mean, it goes so much deeper than where words can go, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's so transforming.
I mean, yes. I mean, I love that aspect of the week of just where, you know, our hearts are just opened, really, depending on how willing we are. And sometimes even when we're not, he sort of comes in and we're not looking, and just transforms things in our lives, just kind of really breaks off a lot of shackles and opens up our hearts to receive something that is so precious, that, and like you say, many of us haven't received it in that way before. So I know that must also, the age group must also impact your team. So I'm kind of curious about the people that help you in the schools and where they've come from and how old they are. Can you tell us a bit about your team?
Yeah, we have about 10 to 15 young people, students, that every 3 months we come together for a long weekend or a week, and we go through the A school material. We help them to tell their stories, to tell testimonies on their journey, on the different topics, and we're just helping them to begin to share their lives with others.
Wow.
And so at the moment, we got an invitation from an NGO that is working with young people. And one of our team has gone there for 2 days now to share with them. And I'm just so happy that we get Ugandans sharing this, because they take it so much easier. You know, when they look at white people, it's often, I mean, you have the money, you can rest. But you see, how can I rest if I don't know what I eat? You know, and to have Ugandans kind of saying, you know, rest is an attitude of the heart. And once you have it, you can receive what the Father has prepared for you. I mean, when they hear it from their own people, it is so much more acceptable to them than when they hear it, from me, because we all have preconceived ideas when we look at people from different nations, isn't it?
Yes.
And so I'm really, really happy that, you know, we're getting a group of young people who are beginning to live this out and share it with their fellow age mates.
And I know you told me a lovely story of a young gentleman who came off the street looking for a job when we spoke. Do you remember that story?
I think he, it is the one who got his family.
Yes.
Restored. Yeah, I think it's Andrew. He wasn't a street guy, but he was in this village, and he passed by Mutumayoni, and he had a thought, and the thought was like, these people have something that I need. And so he came in the office to ask for a job. And when he said, I kind of feel you have something that I need, for us, we knew we had to give him a job, whether we had it or not, so that he could what he needed. And he got in contact, he got to know Father. All our staff goes through the Father Heart schools and the other programs we do. And so then we did follow-up weekends, and about the second or the third weekend, he came to us and said, I never told you, but I am a father. But I feared telling you because I thought maybe if you know that I have a child, you will send me away. And he said, but I'm beginning to realize that I am denying my child a father. Can I stay with my father, with my child? And that for us, we said, of course. And to have a single father in this culture is very rare. It's children often are raised by moms. Wow. And so the boy came to stay with his father. And the first day, I'll never forget, he was about 5 years old. And he was holding the hand of the father and just looking up to him and saying, wow, I'm home. And then the mother of the child, we said, are you still in contact? And they said, yes. I said, would you like to invite her for a Father Heart school? And so the mom came, and it kindled something between the mom and the dad. And a year later, they married in Mutamayoni. We had a very small kind of family wedding. It was beautiful.
Wow.
And so now they have 2 more children. So there's a family, and it's so nice, a family with 3 young children, and so nice to see how that whole family is kind of restored by the love of Father.
Absolutely. They're the greatest stories, aren't they? I mean, he's a God of restoration, and that's a very powerful story, really, about that. I mean, Trevor, I'm going to ask you, because I know you've spent some time in Mayoni, and I've been in schools where Trevor starts talking about the schools he does there, and he tears up when he starts talking about the young people there. So can you just give us a little bit input about what it is for you about going to Uganda? What's the difference? What are the things you love about going to Mayoni?
I don't want to take all of Ingrid's time, because just what Father's doing there is astonishing. I've been going 10 years now, except this year, and you walk into the grounds at Motomayoni, and it's a clean place spiritually. Because Ingrid and her colleague who was there for many years with her, Wynette, and their team of intercessors have just prayed through the place, and it's not like you come through the chaos of Kampala to get there, and you walk in and you're in a place where it's a used phrase in other things. It's a thin place. Heaven touches earth there, and people walking onto the center who know nothing about God or what's happening there, they feel it. They kind of, it's astonishing. But for me, I think just thinking about Ingrid's team that she's just talked about. I mean, I know Andrew, and all the others, and Maggie and various other ones. This is all they know. So they haven't got all the rubbish that so many of us have carried for years, thinking that if we do enough stuff for God, he won't be angry with us. They've come to this place of knowing God as Father, and I go there to receive, to be honest. I get it does something so deep in my heart. Last time I was there, I was just with you guys, with the team, I think, Ingrid, and there was 17 of them, and we just spent a week together, and oh my gosh, when those guys pray for you, I'll never forget when Gilbert gave me the Father's embrace. I was a wreck for days afterwards. I'm crying here just for joy. It's joy that comes into my heart. I mean, this is why I didn't want to miss this today. I just, it's this lady has is someone very special.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have, Ingrid and I met, well, we don't remember meeting, but we did meet in Cyprus a few years ago. But was one of the reasons why, and obviously having Trevor in Australia doing schools and talking about your ministry, we just wanted to have you and hear more about it. So I've asked you a lot of questions and just got a bit of background, but I just wondered whether there's something you, like, what's been going on for you and what Father's been saying to you over this year, or what it is that you just have on your heart that you'd like to just share with us today.
Yeah, I have really been thinking about the suffering that the world goes through, and especially here, and having kind of met Father, I'm beginning to see that this love that he has for this world, he is waiting. We think we are waiting, but I think he is waiting, waiting for hearts to open up, because he's so ready to pour out his love. I mean, I am so excited in a way, because, you know, the more you get to know him, the more you get to know his goodness. And the plans that he has, the plans to prosper us and not to harm us, the plans to give us hope and a future. And for me, this season where, you know, the whole world is being put down and everybody has to change their plans. I mean, this, for me, is the time that God says, but there's still one in control, and that's me. You know, and my love is there. And I just begin to see that this season everywhere is exposing our hearts. It's kind of bringing out what is there. And if we want to embrace what comes out, his love will just transform it. Or his love will just begin to dream. I mean, for me, I begin to dream bigger. Because if I can see how an enemy can stop the whole world, what about the creator of this universe that so longs to be a father to everything that he has created? And so for me, there is an excitement in my heart that I think that this is going to lead to something that we have no idea about. It's kind of beyond what we imagine. And what it is, I have no idea. I only know that we live in a world that is screaming for love, for the pure transformational love, for acceptance, for life, for all those things that are in the Father's heart. And I think this world is waiting for it, but they don't know what they don't know, as we say in the A schools. And so I think, you know, for me personally, it's a season of waiting. And in the waiting, knowing that I am fully loved and that I'm created for his own pleasure. And that reduces it to the now. But in the same time, there's something in my heart that is for what is to come, for the joy set before me. And how that is going to how that is going to take shape, I have no idea. But I know it's going to come. And so I'm living in one part in the now and saying, Father, thank you that you simply love me and that you are not expecting anything from me, except that I, you know, keep my heart open. The moment I close it, I'm beginning to look at my circumstances and say, oh, I wish it was different. But the moment I can keep my heart open and keep his perspective and receive his love for the now, that love begins to make me to dream for what is to come. And that really excites me, because he's still in control and he's good. And, you know, we may just not see that goodness, but we can experience when we go back to the now and say, you know, I simply want to see it. I want to experience that you love me, that you're good. And you know, that scripture in Isaiah where it says, you know, the Lord works on behalf of those who wait for him. I'm thinking, you know, what is he doing when the whole world is kind of come to a standstill? You know, he's working on our behalf. He's getting things ready for us to receive. And, you know, I think we live in a tremendous season now where we can learn to receive, because he's taken away many people's busyness. You know, people who work from home suddenly have 2 extra hours. You know, I was talking to our team just last week and said there may never be a season in your life where you have so much time. Let's just kind of make sure that we don't look back at it and say, oh, I wish I had.
Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we were so engrossed and then suddenly you froze.
My connection broke.
Yeah.
But
it was wonderful. Yeah, because you were talking about, you know, let's not look back on this season and wish we hadn't, you know, enjoyed it more and listened harder.
Right. Yeah, I think there's, I mean, if we talk about, at least let me talk about myself. I mean, you can be so driven, you can be so wanting so much. And I kind of feel like this, for me, this season is where Father says, just stop and allow me to love you and allow me to give you my dreams. You know, I find this season in a way very hard because it reduces it to me and Father, because we had quite a strict lockdown. And so there's very little social life, but I am just so amazed that I'm still human in that, and that I become more human in it because he knows what I need. And for me personally, it's been a season of kind of letting go and that, you know, letting go of my dreams and simply wait and receive what he prepares for it. Because I think we all have our dreams and our desires in our hearts. But if he says, my plans for your life are so much higher than your own plans, and my thoughts are so much bigger than your own thoughts, then, you know, there is maybe this season for me personally that I just need to let go of what I think and of what I want, and simply say, okay, you know, I want to be partnering with you in your bigger thoughts. I want to hear your higher thoughts about me, so that when things open up, I can hear you and receive what you have prepared for me. Yeah. Because I think what he wants to do is beyond our imagination. And so there's no way we will be able to do that in our own strength. And so the key is, how much can we receive? And then when we receive something from his heart, how much do we really believe that it's him saying these things? Because I so believe that he has a plan for this world that is good. You know, because that's who he is.
Yeah.
And he is above all of what's happening that we see with our natural eyes. And I think that is the season of tapping into that. What is he thinking about this? And he says, just come to me. Allow me to love you, to give you rest. And that will prepare you for what I have for you. And so, yeah, for me, it's an exciting, an exciting season. Not necessarily easy. I don't find it easy. But you know, the moment I don't find it easy and I run back to him and say, you know what, just comfort me, just give me your perspective to this, then he lifts us up above the situation and gets us back to his perspective of this.
It's really like the story of the sower. You know, when we think about we put the seed in the ground and we have to wait, you know, and then the seed has to die before then we get the new life. And it feels like a season of we're in the ground and we're kind of waiting for that to really happen.
Yeah, and the waiting takes long, and so I was kind of tired of the waiting. So I thought I'll Google and see which seed stays in the ground longest, because I thought my dying process is quite long, and I was getting tired of the dying, and I was ready for some resurrection in that sense.
Yeah.
And so when I Googled it, I didn't come very far, but I was flabbergasted when I saw that in Dutch, and when you translate it in English, literally, the time that the seed is in the ground is called germination rest in Dutch.
Right.
And when I kind of saw that, I thought, whoa, this is so beautiful. It's something is being germinated in our hearts while we are resting.
Yeah.
And at the right time, it will begin to grow, and it will become visible, and it will bear fruit, a fruit that the world is waiting for.
Yeah, that's
because
beautiful.
I'm so aware that this whole creation is groaning, and it's waiting for you and me as sons of God to rise up, in our true identity. And with identity comes the authority that the Father has given us. And that's going to bring change.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess the world is being prepared for. And, I think it's when we begin to see our true identity and we begin to live at the place where the Father has placed us, that's where we begin to see the change. Mm. It's very, very big, but at the same time, it's very, very small. It's about my heart.
Yeah, that's great. That's so good. I think, I thought, we're living in a big city as we do, like having to be still has been a challenge for most people, but even for you, sort of in the more of a country village, I guess, even though I'm sure there's a lot of people around, there's still challenges. And I see it with my children, the younger generation, they're just like, let's go. And it has been a time of just even for them having to be still, having to wait and having to reassess and think about, well, I had all these plans, but now they don't look like anything. And it's like going back to him again and saying, well, Father, what is it that you really have? Like, because often we'll go off on our own little tangents and, we have to reconnect. And so it has really been a time for that. I'm sure that you've seen that as well with people around you.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think, we can be so set in our thinking and in what we want. And for me, it has really kind of been simply trusting in his goodness, even when life goes so different than when I wanted, to simply get back to him and say, but I know you're good, and I know you will work this out for good, even though it's not comfortable in the now. And to then not fight the uncomfortable, but to kind of run back to him and say, this is very uncomfortable. I need your comfort. I need you to kind of, restore that life and energy and dreaming back to me.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a season of huge contrasts.
It is.
What we see with the eyes of our mind and what we see with the eyes of our heart. I mean, it's massive. Yeah. But it's going to come together. There is a season coming where that is going to come together, and that's what excites me.
Yeah, because that's then a powerful experience, isn't it? When those two things are together, and I can't help but think that, as we look out around the world, there's a lot of turmoil in, politics, whether it's be politics or financial situations or power struggles, whatever it is. It seems like, but it's not like it's a new thing, and in some ways it's probably always been there, but it's now risen to the surface, and we, in some ways, we can look at that and be really worried or fearful about, and I think that's what's happened with some of the people that I've talked to. They just seem more fearful because there's so much unrest. But if we look at it from what you're saying, that we're now seeing the reality of what's there, it's come to the surface, and we have a Father who can deal with that he knows. He's got the plan.
I mean, isn't it beautiful that the Bible gives the solution? The perfect love of God casts out all fear. Yeah. I mean, the more fear that is exposed, the more people get in touch with their hearts. Father has already given an answer. Mm-hmm. The world is actually not aware of that answer yet. But I find that so interesting that, the answer to fear is love. Yeah. And so in that way, I can just see Father preparing the world for himself. Mm-hmm. And I think...
No, I know what you mean. It's not anything you'd expect.
Just to run into his arms and be loved and know that we have an authority above us that only has good thoughts about us. Yeah. Thoughts to prosper us. Yeah. And that we kind of begin to tap into that, what we can't see, but what is such a reality. Yeah. And I think, Father is waiting to bring that reality to this earth. Yeah. And he's preparing you and me for it. And I mean, I feel so blessed that I simply know his love in this season, because I can see the suffering of people who don't know it. And I can still look back at my own life and see how I struggled when I didn't know Father. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. And and that just treasures it, what he has given to me even more. That I think, who am I? That you live in me, and that and that you created me for your glory, for your joy, for your pleasure. But that in that process, I can give it away to a world that is longing for it.
It's a real substance, isn't it? I mean, that's what
it's such a reality. Yeah, it's not just a word. It is the presence. It is a person. Mm. It is transformation. It is acceptance. Mm. It is what the world is looking for.
Absolutely.
It's what the world is needing. And I think, we can only receive the things that we are in touch with. You can't receive anything that you don't know that you need.
True.
And so this is a season where I think many of us come in touch with our need. And if the fullness of God himself lives in us, then all the answers that we need are already in us. And I think that is the journey that we are on, that we begin to see those answers in ourselves, because the Father has laid it all in us, in Jesus. And so every answer that we need is actually already in us. And we have a whole season where he says, do you want to unpack it? So that more and more you begin to see with my eyes and you begin to hear with my ears. So that we begin to see that he's preparing this world for his love.
A world that really needs to be able to receive it,
Yeah.
Is crying out. Yeah. Crying out for what they really don't know what they're crying out for. We know, but they don't. And that's the beauty for us, to be able to just be. And I think the reality of being is that we are then filled. Well, we're not so busy, we're not running around, and we're not sort of relying on ourselves. Now we're in this, we have to rely on him for that next opportunity, for that next, when we walk out the gate. Nothing is really solid anymore, and that's not necessarily a bad place to be, because then we're just leaning on him more and more. We're looking to him more and more to reveal, as you say, what he's already put in us. So it's a beautiful sort of analogy. Well, it's a beautiful truth, really. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
If it's a river of his love, then, you know, the river flows, and we cannot change the course of the river. We can only surrender to it. And that means embracing what comes to us, knowing that it's his river taking us there. Even though it's not comfortable, but that even if it's not comfortable, he works it out for good. Because he's good.
You've said that every time you say he's good, I so believe you. Because it's a reality. I mean, the way you say it, I just say, I'm believing this, because, you know, that's what we need to know, that the God we have he is a good God, and he is, you know, he's not causing chaos. He's not out there afflicting anyone. He's out there just saying, come to me, and I will comfort you in the midst of this. Come to me. And as I say, for those that don't know him, it's challenging, and it's scary, and it is fear, and people are fearful, and we have the answers for that. You know, we may not always understand how to communicate that, but we can be us. We can be him to them. So it is really beautiful. Are you finding in your daily, just in your daily experiences, there are things that you're doing now or interactions you're having that you wouldn't have normally had?
The people walk in here, and I may have just a 10-minute conversation with them, and they taste something of his love. And I'm beginning to see that it's in the small things. It's not in the big things. It's what you're saying. It's just being you. And even when even with our own weaknesses or with our own kind of issues, he works through that if we embrace who we are and not try to be better or try to be nicer Christians, or, you know, if we simply say, this is me, and the Father has approved of me, he lives in me. So, you know, it kind of brings a freedom.
Yes.
To simply be you. And knowing that we are good enough for him to live in us.
It's true. I do remember right at the beginning of COVID when people were like, you know, really questioning, you know, what's going on, and so much fear around. And honestly, I wasn't afraid. I didn't sort of go through any sort of fear of catching it or what would happen, or I just wasn't afraid. And people did notice. Like, I was really surprised, like when I would be very sort of not casual, but just not sort of joining the conversation, I guess, in the sort of heightened, you know, drama that it was, that people really noticed that there is something about having peace within, that you're safe. You know, you don't have to, there's a real sense that people aren't used to that.
Yeah.
I just think it's been a really like it, and it will go on. Like we don't know what comes next. We sort of seeing things opening up, but then they could close down again. Just and wherever we are in the world, it's different. So I think it is an interesting time just to be, you know, I guess leaning our ear to the heart of the Father to see, you know, what he's talking to us about. Just in the small things, I think, like you said, are really precious to me, the small communications and small interactions that we have. It's really great. So, yeah, so we've been talking for nearly an hour, so that's pretty amazing, and it's just been really wonderful. I'm going to ask Tom just to unmute everyone, because I really love, if people have any questions, just to be able to ask you anything about the ministry. That and also your book. Can you just tell us a little bit about your book and where we can get it if people are interested?
Yeah,
look, Tom.
Available on Amazon. Oh, Tom, you're amazing. That's where I can get it.
I'll share a link too, but I don't see a chat enabled at all.
Yeah, okay. That's great. Yeah, so it's your story, and it's, yeah, obviously it's named after the centre where you are right now.
Yeah, yeah. And after the whole journey, my own journey, to be honest, because the river in my heart was very dry. I just knew how to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know how to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit I haven't read it, but it's on my reading list. So I'm really looking forward to it. I know that I've had a few friends that have read it and said they just loved it. So I'm really looking forward to that. So if we can go back to our gallery, and maybe, I don't know if anyone has any questions for Ingrid, even just simple things of her, how her ministry operates or what she's doing, then be really great, or just some comments. We'd really love to hear from you. So please feel free to.
People are able to unmute themselves, but they'll have to unmute.
If people want to unmute, then yeah, please do that. You need to turn your speaker back on if you want to ask some things. So.
Quick question from Ingrid to Ingrid. You mentioned people coming to visit the centre who just walk in and you just have a little while with them. Could you tell us the story about the police who visited you recently? One that you...
Yeah, we had a few months ago, we had an armed attack, and that was the third one in 1.5 years. And, you know, the police is kind of very, very corrupt, and it's hard to get to get help from the police. And so what we kind of decided was to invite them for lunch and build relationship with them. And so we had some of our guys that were living on the streets and who really know their sons now. We had invited them for lunch with the police. And of course, they were always like against each other, the street children and the police. And so now these young guys were just telling their story on how important the police were for this country. And they were encouraging the police in their work that they were doing and thanking them for, you know, maintaining order in this country. And it was just amazing how the 5 or 6 police officers in this little town that we are in were leaving this place being so encouraged, you know, and just receiving the love of the Father through the kids that they would arrest in the past. Wow. And now they were receiving Father's love and encouragement and approval through these young guys. And that was really, it was uplifting for all of us, you know, because the police is only getting accused. And this time, you know, we spend time just honoring them for who they are and for what they do for the community.
Wow.
So yeah, that was good.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you had an armed attack, Ingrid, what does that mean? They actually attacked the centre where you are? Or?
Yeah, they came, you know, in 1.5 years, I've been out one night because I had a meeting in Kampala, and that was the night that the people came with guns and kind of began to shoot and entered the compound. Wow. But we had these panic buttons, so we the night watchman touched the panic buttons, and the security came with guns and fired and fortunately chased them. But yeah, we've had a few security issues in this season, right, yeah, which hasn't been really nice. Yeah. But we're all safe and nothing was stolen and nobody injured. Mm. So that was really good.
Yeah, very good. Wow.
Yeah.
A different environment to what I live in. I'm very aware of that. Very, very aware of that. But that's beauty, isn't it? Being in different places. So Marg's joined us. I can see Margie had some things on down there. Marg, your mic's off, so she's probably somewhere she can't chat. But I just wanted to say hello to her. She's in Melbourne. So anyone else got anything they'd like to ask Ingrid about the ministry at all? It's been really, oh, there she is. She's waiting.
Hello. Driving.
Very good. It's good to see you.
Just saw the change link a bit late, so I'm looking forward to hearing all of it, Ingrid. Lovely to see you.
She's going. Marg and Glenn head up Father Heart Ministries in Melbourne, in Victoria, and so they had to be out today. But that's where our YouTube channel is wonderful, because if anyone's enjoyed today and want to just tell anyone about it, you can go onto the fatherheartaustralia.net and look at the recording on our YouTube channel. And the other thing I'm going to do today, and we very, very rarely do this on a Zoom meeting or on a podcast, but I'm really going to ask people if they really want to invest in the ministry in any way that Ingrid's doing. We would love to take an offering for her. And if you want to do that, you can contribute through the Father Heart Australia website at fatherheartaustralia.net. We have a donations page, and you can just put in your donation and just name it Africa. Seeing Ingrid's the only person we know in Africa and have relations with, we'll know where it's supposed to go. But we've just loved it, Ingrid. Thank you so much. I feel very uplifted. I feel really positive. It's just been a really positive interaction, just your encouragement, hearing what Father's been talking to you about, and that really impacts our lives, helps us to see above and beyond rather than looking down and being concerned. And that's so important in this time, in this season, just to be, as you say, fathers, sons and daughters to those around us. That's the beauty of what we carry, and we know that in our hearts. We know that he's with us. So thank you for encouraging that in us today. I'm really appreciate your time and being available so far away. Thanks to the internet.
An alternative Philippi Express.
Sorry?
We sometimes talk about the Philippi Express, that one we want to get going.
Yes.
The internet is that.
It so is. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Ingrid. Lovely to see you.
Yeah. I'll also just mention we've just we had to cancel our school this year in Australia, which Trevor and Linda were going to lead, but we have just rescheduled for the same time next year, so you'll hear more about it, and we're looking forward to having back in Oz with us. So November next year we've rescheduled another school, so we'll be doing some more advertising about that and looking forward to it. And in the meantime, let's hope we see you guys on this side of the world soon. And maybe even Ingrid. It would be nice for you to come visit us. That would be a bit of a treat.
For sure.
Long trip, I think. But Trevor's often talked about it. He said, we should bring Ingrid down. He said it to me more than once. So you never know. God might have a plan. So that would be awesome.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
You'll love the weather, Ingrid. You'll love the weather.
You'll love the weather. Yes, it's one of the nice things about Australia is the weather. But anyway, thank you everyone for zooming in today and being with us. Thanks, Tom, for hosting us and getting everything working. We had a bit of technical difficulties. And this will probably be our last Zoom for the year. So we'll see you in 2021. December's always a bit crazy, so we thought we'd make this our last one. But Father Heart New Zealand is still doing Sunday afternoons and have had some really great people speaking. So please take advantage of that and dial in and keep yourselves fed and encouraged. So bye to everybody, and thank you so much. Thank you, Ingrid. Thanks, Trevor and Linda, for getting up early. You guys in WA, Melbourne, Adelaide, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, we're going back to bed.
You're going back to